We are at Shelby right here in Las Vegas. And I'm here with Patty.
Hello.
And we're getting ready to go where? To the UFC fight.
Yep.
But I wanted to stop by here because this is called Shelby America. And unfortunately, I picked the wrong day to come here. Because on the other side of this wall is where all of these cool collectible cars sit, and you can walk right up next to them. And they have rented it for an event. But you can see in here, people bring their Fords. And don't forget, Shelby, he also worked with Dodge as well, and he was instrumental in helping with the Dodge Viper. Remember, Lee Iacocca worked with Shelby when they tried to beat tried to beat Ferrari in the Le Mans race, and that's where those GT500s come from. And then you can see over there that's one of the cool cars that would be in there. That blue one right there, that would be a Shelby Daytona. And if you can get a real one of those, I mean, I don't even know. It's over $10 million. But the GT 40s, which basically was what won Le Mans 3 years in a row. And they made a movie about it called Ford vs. Ferrari, which I can tell you is a great movie. A lot of stuff in that movie is not true. I can tell you what's not true, because Patty, don't I do that for every movie?
Yes, you become obsessed.
Yes.
If you watch a movie that has some sort of historical take to it, you are obsessed to find out what's true about the story or the plot, and then what's false, and you become obsessed. You research.
So
for like 24 to 48 hours straight.
Yeah, well, I became really obsessed with that movie. I really liked that movie. But I can tell you what's not true about the movie is the central character that was the antagonist in the movie, who didn't want Shelby to put his own race car drivers in the car. If you remember, the character played by Christian Bale, he was a real race car driver, and he worked for Shelby. And when you look at these Shelby GT 350s and whatnot, what these cars are is they're regular cars made by Ford. They were sent to Shelby, and the same characters that you've seen in the movie would modify them, and that's what made them Shelbys. And they actually did have their factory was at the airport, which you could never get away with today because of terrorism and all the restrictions on airports. But they actually retrofitted them, changed them, and then actually raced them. And so the character that Christian Bale played, his nickname was Flying, because there's so many pictures of him racing these Shelby Mustangs, that he was racing them so hard when he would go over a certain kind of like hump.
This one's one of my favorites.
He would be flying. And so that is absolutely true, that he was one of the people that helped build the cars. That is true. But that character that was so opposed to him driving the car in Le Mans, that just was not true. There was no truth to that whatsoever. It was true that they did suggest that all the cars come in at the same time, because it did make a good photo op, because they beat Ferrari, and that is true. And it is true that he would have won that race had he not slowed down. That is true as well. But a lot of it is just not true. So Carroll Shelby was obviously instrumental in putting a team together that helped fine-tune the GT500. And they actually did a lot of work, and they did actually run them at the airport, test drove them there, and I mean, you name it, and they did it, and all that stuff was true. But the antagonistic nature of the character was not true. He just wanted to win like anybody else. And Ken Miles was the driver that I'm speaking of. Obviously, he was a good driver. And he just recently got put into the Hall of Fame, the Racing Hall of Fame of some sort. But look at all these cars. And what they do here at Shelby America is people bring their cars here and they modify them. They'll make them go faster, they'll make them handle better. Now see, right there, that car, that silver one, that would be a Daytona. I don't know if it's a real Daytona, but if it is, it would be worth millions and millions of dollars. The Shelby Cobras, some could be real, some could be, they still make them to this day, with the same chassis and everything from the, I think they were made in England, the actual chassis and everything, and then they were again modified by Carroll Shelby's crew. But you see how they have, this one has like some sort of racing seats, and you'll see it has like a spoiler, and this one's probably been highly modified to go much faster. That would be done here in the Carroll Shelby shop. Now real quick, a Ford Cobra, a real one, could be worth $800,000. It could be worth $2 million, $3 million. It just depends on the heritage of the car, and that's something you have to learn about these cars. Heritage, who raced it, did it race? But look at this car right here. See the number 5? That was in the movie Ford vs. Ferrari. It's not a real one. I'm guessing that is a Jaguar, maybe. But that's a replica, but that's the one that was used in the movie that Carroll Shelby raced when he won the Le Mans for that class. And then if you see right here, the number 1 car, right there, that is a GT 500. And that looks like a real one. That car is worth, I don't know what it's worth. It's worth probably a couple $1 million, is my guess would be. And that's cool. Look at all these cars. It's freaking insane. This shop looks like it's over 100,000 square feet, and they have a lot of mechanics here.
Yeah, I'm at the airport. I got that booth set up for him and bailed after that.
And that right there looks like
I had it set.
I think it was 2006 when they started making Shelby GT 500s again, and then they just recently made them again. And Ford went out and raced Le Mans with a new one and won, and then was disqualified. Hello.
Nice. We'll tell her Renee.
And of course they have a really beautiful shop here. And see, here's where the cars are normally displayed. So if you come here during normal hours, I guess, you could come here and you could read all about Carroll Shelby. And the car that really made him famous is the Cobra. But it's not just the Cobra, it's the GT 500, the GT 40, and also the GT, and also the Daytona. And see, that's him racing in 1963. And you can just kind of come here and read all about Carroll Shelby. And you can see 1962, his first roadster body, air freighted to Shelby shop. But that movie, Ford vs. Ferrari, is incredible. And then here, look right here, you can see all these Cobras. They were powered by Fords. That part is true. He was using Ford engines. The 428 Cobra Jet was the big one. And look at that. And if we were able to walk all the way down, we could read all about Carroll Shelby and all the cars that he worked on. And of course, he's mostly associated with the Ford Mustang. But he also worked on if you look way down there, and I'll see if I can zoom in, you see a Dodge Charger. They brought it back in the 80s, and Carroll Shelby worked on it. I mean, it's a dog of a car, but that's, you see, it's right there. It's the blue one with the gray hood. That's a Charger. He also helped on the Viper. He's got a long career with automobiles. And he wasn't necessarily the engineer. He was like the head guy that assembled all the people, and he kept all the people going in the right direction. But you can read all about his life, and he was in World War II. And see the car that was in the lobby. You see the number 5 car right up there? That would be the real one that he raced and won Le Mans. And then they made a replica. I guess these guys made the replica. And now they have it back. So there you have it. This is in Las Vegas. And they have a video, and you can read it, you can watch it, and tell you all about his life. There are documentaries on Netflix about Carroll Shelby. He died in 2012, as you can see right there. And that is also true that he had a heart condition. And he was told many times he was going to die. And then he was going to die if he didn't get a heart transplant. And I can't remember if he got a heart transplant or not, but he needed a heart transplant. So that part in the movie is true as well. And Carroll Shelby and Ken Miles never got in a fight, and ice cream went all over the place. None of that stuff happened. That's just all to make the movie seem more interesting. And check this out, they have a really cool gift store, and who wouldn't want to own these Cobra seats? And like I said, if you ever wanted a Cobra, they sell them. They cost about $60,000 to $80,000 to get a replica, but they're not really replicas. It's the same thing that Carroll Shelby would have made back in, 1965. It's the same thing. It's just not from 1965. It's a modern version, and probably better, like overall better mechanically. But it's just not an original. They still can make them with the exact, the company, I don't know what their name is, but there's a company that made a lot of the structure of the car, and they were in England. And they're the ones who also made the body for the GT, this car right here, the GT. And so this is all the souvenir stuff they have in here, and it's free. That's the other takeaway here. It's absolutely free to come in here, and they got a lot of cool merchandise. It's very cool in here. But there's a lot of history if you like racing, and you just stop in, and it's just absolutely free. And if you want them to build you a car, I think they sell them. They have a deal with Ford, and they get cars, they modify them, and then that's what makes them Shelbys. Just like in the old days, in the 1960s, they were getting the Mustangs, and they were making them to where they could race in the Trans Am series. And you can see Shelby there with a Daytona, and you can see a whole row of them. Those are Daytonas right there. Those would be worth, I believe, more than the GTs. They're rare. They're more rare. Not a whole lot of them exist. And then I'm guessing this one here says that this is the last 289 ever built, 1964. And so that was another motor that these cars got. Now the 289s would be cheaper, obviously, than the 428 Cobra Jets. But there you have it. These cars were no frills. They were meant to be super light and very raw. And this is what the Dodge Viper was kind of based on. It was based on a Cobra. And that's why Carroll Shelby was in the beginning phases with Lee Iacocca to help on the Viper. Lee Iacocca, just for you know, when you watch the movie Ford vs. Ferrari, he was instrumental in the movie as the one who tried to make a deal with Ferrari, and he was unable to. And he's the one who recruited Carroll Shelby to come help Ford. Initially, really, to be honest with you, it was just to get them to work on the Ford Mustang, and then to also try to win Le Mans, because Carroll Shelby had already done it before. And then that's why he's so connected to Ford. But if you're not aware, Lee Iacocca eventually became the head guy, the CEO of Chrysler. And so Carroll Shelby was recruited by his old buddy Lee Iacocca to come work for Chrysler. And they made a handful of cars, worked on some cars, and there you go. And this is right here, this is right next to the arena here in Las Vegas, the arena where the Golden Knights play. So there you have it. I just wanted to stop in and make this video, and it's a cool little tourist attraction you can come to and see, and it's absolutely free. And like I said, normally all the cars would be there and you can get right up close to them, and they would have documentation telling you what the car is, what the history of the car is, blah, 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 blah. And I think they do a factory tour too if you schedule it, but the rest of it's just free. You just come on in. Anyway, that's all she wrote from the Carroll Shelby facility here in Las Vegas, Nevada.